few people to come in. I had a few people give me some questions before about companies to watch, and asking me about a couple of companies. Well, you have Facebook. They have an intrinsic value of $287. To which you can see they're below that at the moment. They have PE ratio of 31. Year to date, stopped going to 2% because it's only just started. Assets versus liabilities, 5.1. Revenue growth for the last year is 18.7%. Revenue growth forecast over a year is 19.1%. Net income margin of 32%. Levered free cash flow of 24.3%. Personally, I think they're a good company, but they have a lot of problems at the moment. You have the WhatsApp migration to Signal. You have they've already announced that they're going to be losing. They're going to have a quarter, not this quarter, next quarter, they'll be losing, and you could have a sell-off. And when we compare it to Apple, which we will do now, Apple is $143 around that mark, has an intrinsic value of $90, so it's above its intrinsic value. Has an analyst target mean price of $134, P ratio of 41.9. Year to date stock gain of 8%, and has assets versus liabilities of 1.25. Revenue growth over the last year of 5.5%. Revenue growth forecast for the next year of 15.2%. Net income margin of 20.9%. Levered free cash flow of 26.7%. Now, that's the figures you get. You've got to remember, over 51% of its income and margin comes from the iPhone. The iPhone 12, Apple have lost out on because of the 5G components. They have had to pay more. Now, Qualcomm, sorry, not Qualcomm, they have had to pay, I think it's $78, $87 to another company for their chips for the 5G. Now, you have a lot more expensive components going into the 5G phone. Don't get me wrong, they're going to have more of a rush on the 5G phone than the 4G phones. It's going to be a super cycle, but you are going to have their operating margin is going to take a hit over it. Still, is something which is going to be a short-term hit for long-term gain. Now, Microsoft, their earnings are coming up, and it's $229.53. It's a intrinsic value of $164. Analyst target of $248. P ratio of 36.5. Assets versus liability 1.69. Revenue growth of 13%. Over last year, forecast revenue growth 10.3%. Income margin 32.3%. Levered free cash flow of 33.5%. Now, everyone goes on about Microsoft and areas they're going into. The one that I am interested in is the gaming stock they picked up, because I think that will be a great one for them. was asked about Caterpillar, what with Biden's plans, and you will see that with their current price, $187. Sorry about the shakiness. That they have an intrinsic value of $144. Analyst target mean price of $188, and you have a PE ratio of 30, and assets versus liability of 1.24, and the revenue growth are all minus, and income margin 7.6%, level free cash flow 10%. Now, when you look at that and you look at the chart, the only way I'd play this is with a swing trade. Lilly. Now, Lilly is a bit more interesting. It's $212 a share, intrinsic value of $166, analyst target of $193, P ratio of 34.5, and assets versus liabilities 1.13, revenue growth 6.3, revenue growth forecast to 9.4, net income of 24%, level free cash flow 23.2%. And remember, they're coming out with their version of the Rona vaccine, which I bet will include the mutation. You have Tsla, of course, which is $880. You have intrinsic value of $624, analyst target of $532, but then the analysts are never right with a P ratio of 1566, and assets versus liabilities 1.62, revenue growth of 15%, forecast 26.8%, net income margin of 2%, which we know Elon's concerned about, and level free cash flow of 6.5%. Now, we know unless there's something extraordinary coming out, we usually have a run up and then sell off after earnings with Tsla. Now, I won't bother going through Freeport Memorial because, to tell the truth, it just doesn't look any good to me. General Electric, people have been saying to me about, is it a buy? You've asked about it, I'll tell you its intrinsic value is $12.53, but has a P ratio of 27, assets versus liabilities of 1.16, but its revenue growth over last year and forecast next year are minus. Basically, when it's like that and the chart's the way it is, I won't be touching it. Now, there are some companies I will be touching. I've spoken in the past about FRSX, spoken in the past about companies like Ligand Pharmaceutical, and they've risen since then. Now, Ligand Pharmaceutical is one of those that are heavily shorted, and they have 30 days to cover that short, and I believe that even if you miss a short squeeze, it's still a quality company to be in. So I do think that the likes of BlackBerry and AMC will have their squeeze beforehand, but then I think it's less of a risk. Now, with GameStop, you've got to be careful because in 2 weeks' time they have their earnings call, and I wouldn't be surprised if they would be forced to say they don't understand why they're up so high and they should be down around $10–20 a share. Now, the other thing is, I spoke about DR Horton. It did smash earnings, like I said, but there was a sell-off of people taking profit. I can only say what I think the earnings will be, not what people's reaction will be. Now, Workhorse, I've been a bull on that all along, and it's gone up to $32. Hopefully, sorry, $31, nearly 32. Hopefully, it'll carry on climbing. It is shorted, heavily shorted, 31.5%, and it does have other orders, $1 billion worth of other orders, and deserves to be there even without the USPS contract. Now, of course, Romeo and TPIC, exactly calm. It is new all-time highs. Now, I don't know if you caught my other video yesterday. $1 billion from multiple sources, from UPS and Ryder, and all the contracts that they've brought in already. Of course, those contracts are different. They are contracts on delivery. They're not. They don't have the $1 billion on hand at the moment, but their orders total $1 billion, and they're getting new orders every day. The likes of IKEA do not order like 600 trucks in one go. They order 6 trucks. They've ordered 6 trucks from Workhorse, which hasn't even been announced publicly yet. And then they, if they're happy with it, they will come back and order a whole new fleet. It's like we saw earlier in the year. There you go. See, we've heard about it, but it hasn't been confirmed. Even though the company which did the wraparound of the truck has confirmed it's come from Workhorse to IKEA. That the other thing is, we have the fact that other companies have taken 1, 2, 3 trucks from Workhorse, and then they have been so pleased they've ordered more trucks. And I believe I've got something here as well. There's another company which has put Workhorse on their websites for selling or leasing the trucks, which only helps with it. You know, only helps with sales. And it's exactly Muka. I hope I'm not butchering that, but oh, and don't forget to give a like to the video, get it out to more people. If you haven't subscribed, don't forget to subscribe. Basically, if Workhorse goes to $100 a share, you know, I'll end up with 200k. If it goes to 150, I'll end up with 380k. I took out 100 shares, 300 shares the day before the announcement by Biden. Single point, I've heard of that, but I haven't looked into that. Have you looked into COMS? It's just been uplisted to the Nasdaq, was a $6 stock, and has been reduced to $4 by the market makers. So has been forced into a 50% reduction by the market makers today. Today by the market makers, and I think that's one that can run. So that's one that I've got into today. Workhorse Muku. Yes, I have. I have gone into EV Box. Before it was EV Box, I went into SBE. This channel was huge on SPACs and SPAC news, and it still is. I have done numerous videos. I have a whole playlist for IPOs and acquisitions, and you will find lots of SPAC news videos in there. Some of them on videos on companies that still haven't SPAC'd yet. And I have, as I said, EV Box, and there's one that should go this week, MDGS. A friend told mate TC at Burner Market he's up 50% on it already, and I said to him, no way, it's still a run up, it's still going to have a good run up. It's got contracts with NASA, so it should be in the it should be, they've got contracts with NASA, so for their cameras, with the military, so it should be in the space ETF, Cathie Wood Space ETF. They also have contracts over charging stations, and I think it's incredibly cheap, and it won't be that cheap for long. More and more people will find out day. I have companies that are infrastructure, like charging infrastructure stocks as well. I said before how when I make a profit, I split my profit between shares and the money, and then I put that into a new company, and that way I let the other shares run. I do think Workhorse will go to 100 at least, purely because I thought it was going to go to 100 if it got a USPS contract before it started picking up all these contracts. Now it's picking up all these contracts. I think it will go to 100 to 150. I think once it hits that price target, it will have a pullback from people selling. But I think what has happened is during this period, a lot of the retail sellers have been pulled out, and the funds have gone in. But it still has 31.5% short in. Now, I've done a thing about comms before, and where is it? Let me see. They're in the space and green sector, uplisted on Friday. It was over $6 before it listed. They're in the lithium battery division for vehicles, looking for the best lithium ion battery for your vehicle or application. You know, they have a 5G division, they have drones, you know, they're a space communications company, and I just think it's well worth looking into. I mean, it is a good one to look at. Now, the other thing is, I spoke about DPW before, how it's like an ETF in itself because it has so many companies, and DPW is, although it's run up 27% since I spoke about it, it has EV chargers that are for sale on Amazon. Now, the nearest other company is Blink. They're $11, you know, and I think DPW, if you're looking at charging stocks, you know, the problem is the others are kind of, I hate to say it, but they're getting into bubble territory. You know, I have a number of stocks, you know, I have AEHR, they're, you know, which is used for electric cars and charging stations. They enable the newest sensors and technologies in smartphones and tablets, enable the widespread adoption of electric and hybrid electric vehicles and charging stations. You know, it's but I don't want to like overload you with all this information. I have done them before. I mean, I also have VISL, which is a space satellite stock, which I also think will be in the space ETF. It's got a small float, and it has quite a large short on it as well. So I think it's worth looking into. Now, there are ones like SGBX I've spoken about, and I said this year will be big for SGBX, and I bought it originally as a hurricane play because they take the old shipping containers, they repurpose them and use them originally for emergency housing. They have contracts with the army, the navy, the government, and even the NBA, because they make basketball courts out of them in Africa. Now, I didn't realise the scale of what they were doing. They're a partner with Blink for charging stations. They are also a COVID testing station, and yeah, they are, and they are also used for Starbucks and a number of contracts with retailers. They have there's a place in London near where I live, like a swanky place, and all they've done is painted them, put a couple of flowers there, put some juice, some electric into it, and they charge the earth for the shops. And you know, yeah, I said on my channel a few months ago, well, I bought when they were $2 a share. They're $8 a share. I think they're going to go over $10 easy. The thing about them is that you look on Yahoo Finance, they have debt on their book. Yahoo Finance haven't updated their sheets on these things, and they have debt on their books. They no longer have debt on their books. They've cleared their debt. So they're debt free. They have government contracts, they have sports contracts, they have retail contracts. They are environmental play. They are a EV play. You know, they've got so many strings to their bow, and that is unbelievable. They've got all these partnerships that, you know, I just think if you're not in it, you know, by now what I've done is I took out my initial investment, and I have all these shares playing with the house money, and I'm thinking to myself, have I made a mistake? Should have let my money ride, because I know it's going to go up even further. But this is the way I usually do my trading: move the money elsewhere, and if it goes down, no thing. But the way I see it is, I don't think it's going to go down. I think it's going to go up for a long. I mean, I'm also looking at NXTD. I mean, the short interest is up 101% and is now at 17% short. You know, and everyone seems to be going into short companies. I spoke about MDGS, how its EV charging news will be coming out soon. Thank you, Com. Always good to stick to your plan. It's when you don't, that's when things go wrong. But MDGS has signed a memorandum of understanding to enter electric vehicles, and as well as electric charging, and for urban and logistics transportation. Now, as well as that, I don't know if you heard, but Pizza Hut are trialing in Israel deliveries by drones, and it's been linked to MDGS because of their drones system. Now, it's I I'm in ITP, which is nothing to do with EV, but they are a mask company, and they also do like the packaging for companies, automated packaging. You know, all these things that people are buying have to be packaged somewhere, so they do automated packaging, and they do one of the biggest suppliers of cheap masks. Now, in Europe, a thing is coming out, a law is coming out saying that you can no longer wear cloth masks. They have to be the medicinal masks, and these do the cheapest medicinal masks around. And they're like, this aren't even $1. We, you know, there's SNGX, which is nothing to do with that, but should be presenting today, expected to give commercialization plans, should run into close on its news. Poised to announce commercialization plan of SGX-301, which is for the treatment of cutaneous T-cell lymphoma. Now, I think I have covered most of them. Yeah, OT Tech, but BusXF has gone back down. Yeah, the DR Holland, yeah, Corporate Universe, yes, yeah, COUV. Now, this was one. I sold out my initial investment when it went up, and what happened? It came back down again before Biden's speech. So I went in and put my initial investment back in, and it's run back up again, another 29%. I've done numerous videos on this. Corporate Universe is one that is one you've got to hold for a couple of years, but it is QuantumScape and more. It's better than QuantumScape in my opinion. The only thing QuantumScape has over it is Bill Gates, and you know, I am still bullish on BusXF. The thing is, you're saying Biden's American-made announcement, but if you caught my video on BusXF, you will have heard that they are planning to open a factory in California. So although they're Canadian, they will be American-made by opening a factory in California. And of course, now they will get cheap land because all these companies that are moving out of California because of tax. There you go. See, the thing is, I'm not super bullish on it because it is still a risky stock. I am more bullish on the likes of Curiosity Stream, but that's because, again, I've taken my initial investment out and I've just got my house money running. But the thing is, if you saw the comms chart, you'd understand why I'm bullish on that. The CleanSpark is a company I'm very bullish on. Why? Because it's a microgrid technology and it's gone up 10% last year from the microgrid technology, and then it's gone and bought a crypto mining company, Bitcoin mining company, that has increased its revenues by 20%. And it's brought down the energy costs of the crypto mining company. And the thing is, if crypto, say Bitcoin crashes tomorrow, it will still have 10% revenue growth year on year if it keeps on with the crypto. Who knows where it can go? If crypto goes up, you know, who knows what you can do with it. Now, Burgundy Technology acquisition, still near the floor, 1160, and that is going to be as far as I know. And I mean, AT&T, I'm bullish on, because apparently the DirecTV, which was dragging them down, they've got a buyer for that. They haven't announced it yet, but apparently they have. On top of that, we all know about Warner Brothers going to be streaming through HBO Max, which will give a boost to their streaming service. But they're going to film a prequel to Game of Thrones, and that will also give a boost to them. Now, I picked up some more shares in American Battery Metals, you know, the American made and needing the mining. As well as that, another couple of companies I picked up. You know, we have, I forgot to say, picked up in GEE, which is jobs, because Biden said about providing the he said about providing the healthcare workers and all this, and the only one who can supply that is a company called so quickly is a company called Jobs. Now, another company is Infrastructure and Energy Alternatives. I've done a video on that and spoken about that before. It has a fair value of $50. It's at $21. It's risen since I've done the video, but only by $3. It's still around. I think I've done a video on BioLace. I think that will do well. Now, one that I think is, how can I put, one that I think is going to be, you can put it, it's going to be a surprise, is Romeo. I think Romeo, people are taking their foot off the gas with Romeo, and they were buying Romeo when Workhorse wasn't moving, thinking we're hedging our bets with Romeo. And the same with TPIC, but they've stopped. And then when the news came out, they stopped. They bought into it, and now they've stopped. But they're still buying Workhorse. I don't understand it. Romeo, I think, is still a good buy, and I don't understand it myself, but I think it'll be the year for Tattoo Chef. I've been a long-term bull on Tattoo Chef, and I realise I'm saying a lot of stocks, but I think United States antimony with mining and United States, you know, but as I said before, UR Energy or URG, I think that will have a monopoly on the mining sector. Wkhs hasn't made a move yet, but as soon as they announce that you're going to need an electronic passport to fly, to show that you've had the vaccine, this is going to move. And I think people haven't realised yet Now, unless there's any other questions, if there is, please ask away, and I'll be happy to answer them. I was speaking in another channel. I also think Foot Locker. And Foot Locker. What's the ticker for the passport one? Remember that just because I say it doesn't mean that it's going to go up. I've had some of these go down as well, and they are stock, so it's highly volatile. I've sent it. It's UKEY. Why am I bullish on Foot Locker? Oh, Foot Locker, it's the same as Nike. They deal mainly with Nike. Any company that can not only survive during the Rona, but actually excel, is a company that's worth looking into. I am up $12 a share on it. They pay a dividend. They're a value stock, and their online section, if with a lockdown, their online section does extremely well. With if there's no lockdown, then in-store does incredibly well. Now, as I said, for me, they seem a little bit higher, but nowhere near as high as they'll be later on in the year. I think they will move. You might want to wait for a pullback. I got in around $38, $35, and I do like it. Now, of course, there was Titan Medical, and what else was there? I've got here some. I spoke about Ligand. Now we have also, if anyone wants to know about UK stocks as well, I speak about them as well. For instance, GlaxoSmithKline I think is undervalued at the moment, but the majority of you want to know US stocks. DHT is a tanker stock, and basically people look at it and think oil is at highs, I don't want to touch it. Then they see dividend yield of 14.87. Well, it's a good dividend, but it's a dividend trap. It's a good dividend, but they're going to cut it, or I can get secure dividend near enough that elsewhere. And let me tell you, this is the first quarter dividend. They announced this for the first quarter dividend. They did the same thing last year, and by the time the last dividend come around, they actually announced it to be a 42% dividend for the year. They do it depending on the profit they bring in throughout. Now, the other thing about DHT, when everyone like Jeremy was buying into NAT, and I'd done my review of tankers, DHT was the one I went with, because for me, they were the best. DHT, Euro, and Euronav. Frontline was the only other one, but then they diluted the shares for a company that only had 1 million shares on, to dilute them by putting 3 million on the market. It was terrible. in my opinion, and they ended up cutting their dividend, so I was proven right. Now I think when oil hits $55 a share, it will drop, and I think we'll end up with in the same situation with a glut of oil. And DHT has secured 60% of its fleet on a $40,000 per day charter. Now, when you consider, looking at Potent Daily Briefing, that it costs 10,000, 11,000 to keep one of them in the water per day, and the likes of NAT are only getting paid 8,000 a day. Well, because they didn't secure the long-term contracts. They would rather get the 60,000, 70,000, 80,000 a day, thinking, ka-ching, I'm getting it a day. DHT got them on a 1 year, 2 year contracts when the company had to pay everyone. So they got a month of the money and thinking it was going to keep rolling in. DHT were forward thinking, got 2 years of it, and secured their money for 2 years. And now they're buying a couple more tankers with some of this money. So this is one. I have 141 shares of Workhorse on there, and I have a portfolio with just DHT in there and 141 shares of Workhorse. If Workhorse goes to $100 a share in there, I will sell it and move that money into DHT. So confident I am in it. Anyway, unless there's any more questions, we'll end it there. I will give you a few more seconds to give me questions, but I think that's going to be it. I do appreciate everyone coming in, and I do hope you will hit that like button. It really does help with the YouTube. It really does help with the YouTube algorithm, and it does help you guys commenting, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't. Thank you, Carl, and don't forget to stay safe and take care, and I'll see you in the next one. And it was nice to see a couple of new faces as well. I hope to see you in the next one as well. Anyway, that's all for this evening. I hope you all end up with green days.